Here we go.
All right, thank you.
Take it away, my man.
Good morning. How you doing today? Wake up. Time to wake up. What's going on? Sorry, I had to do that just to get my own self up. So my name is Pablo Segarra. I am a Web3 attorney in the space. I have my own company called Segarra Consulting. We like to say that marathons don't run themselves, and we're the legal partner for entrepreneurs in the space. Today, we're talking with the Nettyworth team. Yay, a round of applause, yay. Okay. So Nettyworth created a platform where users can manage and borrow against their digital assets. Very important in the space, as we all know. And I'd like for the team to be able to introduce themselves first, because I think everybody does their own introductions better than I can. So why don't we start with Al?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Alcides, or Al. I'm the COO of Nettyworth, also the founder of a branding and marketing agency in New Jersey for the last 20 years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jalaya. I'm actually the co-founder and CEO of Nettyworth. I've been a long-time collector in the space and came from the fintech space, so definitely learned a lot about how financial tools could be used in the Web3 space.
I'm going to take them both. Jonathan Colton, Director of Strategy, Nettyworth, coming from the SaaS space, long-time biz dev strategy guy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So now, as we all know in the space, pretty much in general, right, not just in the space, we know that communication is such an issue. How do people keep attention? How do they communicate with each other? We're constantly thrown different types of news, and it's just like, how do you kind of filter that and pay attention to it, right? So do you see issues, first of all, with communication in the space between collectors, right? As you can notice that, for example, right now, maybe if I want to buy an NFT, right, how can I directly contact that person? Well, I got to go through Twitter. I got to go through various other forms. Like, how can I just kind of cut the middleman out, maybe, let's say, right? Like, what are the issues you see with the communication? Let's start there.
Yeah, so basically, I think this is very important because right now it's very segmented where, collectors and traders are using Discord, Telegram, Twitter, to communicate amongst each other. And it's very hard to get the proper information, right? Whether it's just news, like, and breaking news in the space or just data, or being able to communicate amongst each other. So I think this is like something that we desperately need to solve. And there's a giant disconnect because it's very hard for the space to continue to grow when no one really knows the actual, right, like the authority of the data and the information.
Provenance of the information.
Yes. You could go in.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the provenance of the information. Who's it coming from? Are people doxxed? Is it some person with an ape on their PFP, which is probably half the space? And I think the other thing that's connected to that is there's so many different tools, and none of them are connected to all the other tools that we're using. We found one Twitter post that we highlighted really interesting, is that none of these tools are connected. There's no connection in the ecosystem.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's very confusing. Like we use Slack.
Yeah.
Right? We use text, right? Yeah. We have email. That's just in the company.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're using Telegram and all these tools in your working life. How many tools do you have open on a daily basis? How many tabs and tools are you flipping between? So it's a messy situation.
Yeah, I think everybody's still trying to find what the right tool is when it comes to communication. That's why, even Telegram just opened up different channels within the main channel recently. I know for myself, from a trading perspective, right, if you're selling your NFTs or wanting to buy, you want to be able to communicate with somebody, right? I've gotten to the point, I've been in bidding wars, and I'm searching through accounts to try to find if they have an ENS domain so I can maybe find them on Twitter. One time I even got to the point that I designed an NFT to airdrop into somebody's wallet to say, hey, if you see this NFT, contact me on Twitter because I want to buy your piece.
Did you do it?
No. I did design it, though.
Oh, he designed it. All right.
So there's a huge battle going on between OpenSea and Blur for the leading marketplaces, right? Like it's kind of neck and neck race. Everybody's kind of trying to compete with each other, right? What do you guys see as the future of marketplaces, given that we're really not in year one, we're really not in year two. This is kind of like year 3, year 4. You know, I've been in this space maybe about 2.5 years. There's some people that have been here 5, 6 years, right? And I think that we still haven't kind of honed in on, I guess, the perfect marketplace, because OpenSea had a ton of issues with just flagging NFTs that are stolen and stuff like that. So what do you see as the future of marketplaces within a couple of years?
I think platforms need to evolve where the entire community and ecosystem benefits. So I think the way OpenSea was running was very Web 2 based, meaning you come in here and you transact. And once you're done with that transaction, that's it. So when Blurred started dropping their airdrops, right? And for the folks that don't know, is basically they're incentivizing folks like a reward system for buying or for placing, for listing your NFT. So I think the future is moving towards, again, a much more decentralized system and a benefit for all, right? So if I'm spending money on this platform, I should be rewarded. I think, and we talk about this, you know, a bunch, that really Web3 should look at American Express and really adopt that mentality of you're a member, and by being a member and transacting on our brand or platform, you should be rewarded. And that's how you actually build a community, and that's how you expand this space and separate it from Web 2.
I'll say something real quick with that.
I was thinking, I wanted to let him think.
Yeah, no, I really think that when it comes to the marketplaces right now, I don't even think they care about the user at this point. I think everything they're doing is for themselves. They're trying to get market equity of the space. I don't really think that they're thinking about the end user whatsoever. I do like, you know, for me, I had an issue once where I bought an OK Bear on OpenSea for 80 Sol when it was a Magic Eden for 40 Sol. So I liked when Blur came out, or Gem, any aggregators that I can see all the different marketplaces in one, to take a look at what the holistic prices are. I think that was a big beneficial feature that was added in the last year to the marketplaces. But I think, and I'm a big into decentralization, so I really think that we need some type of decentralized marketplace that can actually be voted on and managed by the actual traders and creators.
Don't you think that would be a little chaotic? I've seen, you know, NFT collections that have a DAO that manage them, and it's very hard to move a DAO like a business would move. And so it could be even more dysfunctional, but it's an interesting concept, and I think the concept of managing DAOs, it's very complex, and I think people are going to start to figure that out, the governance structure and how you move things forward. But a lot of times in business, we have 1 or 2 key people who really drive the business. In a DAO structure, I'm not sure if that's, you know, the right move. But I think I just want to say one more thing about marketplaces. I think, you know, it's about competition, right? And, you know, we talk about OpenSea. We call it broken sea for a long time, but it's still here, and they just launched a major upgrade with the Pro. So I am kind of curious to see how that's going to evolve. But I think there is a race to the bottom kind of thing going on, where it's, you know, the take, right? What they're taking from the user is going to continue to decrease. So that's good for us. Competition is always going to create more favorable conditions for the user, whether it's building a better platform or having lower fees. So that's the trend. The question is, how long can they stay in the game and be profitable in that sort of race to the bottom structure?
Well, I think there's also an issue with accuracy, right? I mean, me and Al were having this conversation, I think it was yesterday, where it's incredibly difficult to be accurate because, okay, an NFT floor price may be, I don't know, 1 ETH, but what's the value of ETH, right? So then it's like you're kind of always competing with these 2 values going off at the same time. ETH could be really low, and then all of a sudden, well, guess what? Now the price of the NFT is low. So it's kind of competing against each other. And with that, I want to get into a little bit about NFT lending, right? That's been a big issue. I can't see it. That's been a big issue that's been going on with NFT lending, where right now it's hit a $1 billion industry, right? And it's going to continue to grow. There's not a lot of companies that have really ironed out all of the issues and figured it out 100%, but there's definitely a lot of potential in that. So imagine like being able to take out a loan against one of your PFPs, and now you can buy either some other stuff, you can maybe buy a house in the future with it. We don't know where it's going to go. What are your thoughts on the potential growth of borrowing against these digital assets that you have in your wallet, which could be up to $200,000 to $400,000 that you have sitting there, and you can't really do anything with it except, you know what, get some merch, you know, like what can you do with it? So let's talk about that, NFT lending. What do you see as the future of that?
Yeah, so for us, we're definitely looking at the technology side of NFTs. So we know that California is now testing car titles, vehicles for using them as an NFT, right? And we know that homes in Florida and Texas have already been sold also as an NFT. So we're looking at basically how the physical world is going to adapt this technology, right? And how do we create financial solutions, right, for anyone that's using it? So yeah, I think this is something that's going to explode, which is so crazy because we were just looking at the market a few weeks ago, and again, this is the bear market where the lending side was estimated to be around 500 to 600 million, and you know, literally 48 hours ago, they just said, hey, this space just officially hit $1 billion in a bear market. So I think it's shocking, but then again, in the physical world, this has been happening, how John has always mentioned. You know, people have been borrowing against their Picasso. They've been borrowing against, all these types of art pieces. So, for anyone that's thinking, hey, how big could this get? I think it's I think it's enormous. I think we're definitely looking at a $5 to $8 billion market over the next decade.
But I also think you got to think about, why you're buying these assets, right? Why you're buying a token, right? And then what happens after you buy it? Like, how do you have liquidity, right? And like July mentioned, if you buy a Picasso, you're going to go to a specialized bank, and they're going to make a loan, and you're going to take that money, and you're going to buy more art. And so, a barrier for us in the token world is, right, how do we, multiply that money, right? How do you get leverage? And so I think, if this market's going to grow, there's got to be tremendous leverage for people who are, investing in these digital assets.
Yeah, and I think, we're really going in that direction where tokenization of homes, and like July said, California with Tezos is doing a huge deal where they're actually putting car titles as NFTs on the blockchain. I don't know why that's not the biggest story of the year for me as a nerd lawyer. That
I
really
agree.
is, right, the biggest story of the year for me. And even lately, there's been a lot of, there's an Argentinian company that's offering NFTs as tickets, right? And just like, I think, where did he go? The speaker that was before us, he was mentioning that as well, too. So I kind of want to wake everybody up a little bit and ask a question. If I gave you the option to say, I'll tell you what, if you own a home, right, I'll trade you a Fidenza NFT for it, right? Would you take that by a raise of hands? Considering the value of the Fidenza, where it's going to grow, considering the value of the housing market and where your home is going to grow, would you take that?
Explain what a Fidenza is.
Where's the house?
Okay, so why don't we start with that and explain the Fidenza, what it is, and why I asked the question. Maybe it's a little too early right now.
Yeah, so let's just say if your home was around, let's 3x. If you were able to buy a home for $300,000 or buy a Fidenza today for $100,000, which one, by a show of hands, do you think will outperform over the next decade?
Would it be the home
Or the Fidenza?
or the Fidenza? The home?
Yeah.
Fidenza. Fidenza.
Yeah.
Okay, explain why you think it's the Fidenza.
So I think, and this is something that, amongst collectors, we always talk about this, and it's like, it goes back to scarcity, right? So the demand for a product or a piece of art and the scarcity of that. So whenever you have, I believe it's a 1,000-piece collection, but the majority of the holders are not willing to sell to you. So again, this just plays back into why Bitcoin is where it's at, right? And just to highlight something, BlackRock, one of the largest asset managers in the world, just announced again in the bear market that traditional art and a little bit of some digital art may surpass every asset class over the next decade. Yeah. Folks, this is BlackRock. This is not Web3. This is not a degen. This is not a guy on Twitter that's saying, "Hey, this is what's going to blow
it's
up."
Established organization, right?
Yeah, trillions of dollars, right? Managing, but yeah. So I think for collectors, I think we see a giant opportunity, specifically even in the bear market. I mean, for anyone that knows, Jack Butcher with the checks, I think there are tremendous collections that are coming out that are extremely undervalued right now.
So then let's talk about, with all of these issues, right, what are some of the major problems that led you to create Networth? Let's start with the problems that you see as to why you created this company. I mean, why are you guys here, right? Like, what are you in the space for? What are you doing here? Right? Let's talk about that, right?
Yeah, so we've been around for about 2 years. Most of us started collecting NFTs, I would say 2 to 3 years ago. And basically, it was very simple. I owned a bunch of NFTs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was using a spreadsheet to calculate the total value and the floor price. And, and we're like, wow, this is not efficient. And then we're trying to get data and we're trying to scrap data. And then we said,
How many websites?
It was about 5. We needed to visit on average. We did an internal thing amongst us where we're saying, hey, in order to get the data that Networth is providing, on average, a user needs to visit about 5 platforms.
Imagine all the time wasted kind of.
Yeah.
Just
So what we do is basically we solve the first issue that we had, which is a user could come to the platform, connect their wallet, and see their total value, right? So, again, for anyone that owns NFTs, just ask yourself this question: do you know the value of your total wallet? And 99% of users do not know this. Imagine being in a space where we're dealing with our financial investments, the money that we've worked for, and we don't even know the value of what we hold. Again, this is shocking. So again, I think that's the top highlight of like one of the biggest things that we solved. And then we looked at, hey, you know what? Let's provide the best news feed, right? From top partners. I mean, we're talking about Decrypt, right? And multiple great platforms where, they could come to Netty and they could see all the latest news, connect their wallet, get their data. And then how we're moving over to where you're going to be able to borrow against your asset right on the platform. So that's our story, because we're collectors ourselves. And we knew, on top of like figuring out our pain points, users' pain points. I think in the history of finance, I don't think there's ever been a market where people dump hundreds of thousands of dollars in something and they don't know how much money they have. I mean, or if they made money. This is like some, when they say, are you a degen? I mean, that's some degen stuff to do, but yeah.
Well, I think it's also, why is it, what's the name? Like, why Networth, right?
Oh, very simple. Net worth, right? So we just put a little spin to it. What's your Networth? What's your Web3 net worth, right? And that's really what we're helping users understand and manage.
So with that, right, imagine when you go to fill out your Amex, credit application, do they ask you for what's your crypto value? No. Right. So imagine you're owning $200,000, $300,000 worth of assets in crypto, and you can't get a credit card, right? You can't get a loan for your business, right? Do you think that there is a future where that specific situation could happen, where perhaps, the bigger companies like credit card companies, maybe traditional banks, would get to that point where they would start accepting this information?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting is so far the space has not been as open to connecting their digital wallets to maybe a traditional bank. They're not doing that, but the consensus that users are not willing to do that, right? So I think the traditional banking system is going to have to work with companies like us to eventually get the data that they need to be able to provide outside loans, right? So, I mean, this is happening right now, and this is very open. If you asked, hey, you're the CEO of Neti, how much of your net worth is on the physical world, right? Bank of America or something like that. The majority is sitting in crypto, in digital assets, fine assets, right? Like good NFTs. And yeah, so what happens when you go into, a Ford dealership and you're like, hey, I would love to get a Ford. And they're like, well, we ran your credit and all that. And imagine there was a way for Ford to say, hey, by the way, we're able to see that Pablo owns $300,000 in digital asset. I think we should give him a better rate. Right?
Maybe asset verification.
Asset verification.
Well, let's
correct.
speak a little bit about asset verification with a couple of minutes we got. Let's do that really quick. I think
So
that's an important point.
So, we like Twitter. Twitter is users telling us their problems. And if you've ever built something, you can either go and ask people or you can just, do social listening and see what people are talking about. Recently, a great Instagram and Twitter photographer was applying to rent an apartment. And she took screenshots of her Etherscan and her wallet, and she submitted that to a prospective landlord. And so as soon as I saw that, I shared it with the team, right? Because the idea is that we're in financial services for people who own NFT and crypto, right? And so that's a user problem that we could solve pretty quickly. And so, the idea of creating a service where you could verify your digital assets makes sense because it's connecting us from the, Web3 world to the other world that we live in where, you have to fill out credit applications and prove that you have assets, right? But how do you recognize that? What's the authority? What's the provenance? What's the structure that someone who's approving you, they're taking risk by approving you is going to say, oh, this is a legitimate asset verification.
So I can't just walk in and say, look at my MetaMask. No.
Look at my MetaMask.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
And again, we're firm believers in the Web3 space, and we believe that though we're working on this, we believe that others should also be working on this because I think it's going to be a collaborative effort in order to really provide these Web2 financial institutions with this type of data.
With that, why don't we just say our goodbyes? Any takeaways at all you want to leave them with really quickly? We got 30 seconds.
Yeah, so we're actually doing a Dead Fellas giveaway. All you have to do is go to nettyworth.io, connect your wallet, and we're giving out a Dead Fellas NFT on Saturday. And yeah, thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.